Welcome to the A New Narrative podcast, where we discuss all things health and human design. I'm Sam Zagar, your projector guide and host. This is a show about deconditioning. My goal is to confront our conditioned, not self narratives so that we can write them anew through the lens of our true selves. It's through this process that I hope to guide you to your signature life. Okay, we are here with a guest today. For the first time in a long time, y'all don't have to hear me talk to myself. So I've got Jennifer with me today, and she is a 2/4 manifesting generator. And we'll slowly uncover a lot of other parts of her design throughout the conversation, but I've met her through my work, and we met through Instagram. And I've seen a few things of your content where I'm like, ooh, I want to know more about that. But I wanted to have like full conversations about things. So let's just bring you onto the podcast and talk about it. So hi, Jennifer.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. Anything to chat about human design always piques my interest.
Right.
So
And like
super excited.
we did a little bit of a warm-up chat getting into it. And there were things that we were talking about. And right away, when I looked at your design, I was like, oh, I want to ask her about that. I want to ask about her experience with this. I want to ask about your experience with this. And so, like, just to kind of warm us up in the conversation, I want to pick your brain about having nervous determination because I'm in a relationship with somebody who has nervous determination. So there's what I've learned from raw and source material, but then there's what I learn living with somebody. And sometimes the information, like when you get to see somebody else live it out, you get to understand it a little bit differently. And with nervous determination, it's my understanding that this is so much more about the circumstance than the ingredient, as in like the ambiance is more important than what's on the plate. But what what does nervous actually mean? Like I tend to understand this as you need higher stimulation, but stimulation can mean a lot of different things. So what 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 is it like for you?
Well, I will say straight off the bat, like I just found human design 9 months ago, so I am totally new. Just like joining your advanced human design courses and starting to learn about variables. Like it takes me a couple of times. I've probably listened to your lectures, like each one, probably 2 or 3 times before it actually like starts landing and resonate. It's like kind of building those layers. But what I've noticed with nervous touch, especially the past couple of weeks, is I definitely need like a TV on. I'm usually watching, something regarding human design. Maybe have a podcast also going in the background. I'm usually like in my living room. I have parrots in there as well, so they're always like doing their own thing because they have to be like in the mix, with where most of the activity is going on. So I always have like them and my dogs laying around, and I'm usually by myself. But yeah, I definitely have to say it really doesn't matter what I'm eating. It's just the environment that I'm in. But if I'm around people, I have a hard time eating.
Like
It's
in
like the
general, like you
complete
lose your
opposite.
appetite kind of deal?
Yes. Like I forget to like eat because I guess maybe I'm just so, well, I'm sure some of it could come to childhood trauma, but it's just like I'm more aware, I guess, of like what I look like when I eat. So I just like completely kind of don't if I'm in front of like, especially people I'm not comfortable with.
You don't like to be seen, like watched when you're eating.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a huge thing that I went through in grade seven. I stopped eating at school in grade seven. I don't know why, but I became pause. Grade seven was the year that I was sexually abused by my mom's boyfriend. No shit, I stopped eating at school. Takes a second to put two things together for a minute there, but wow, just hitting heavy right off the bat. At that point, I stopped eating in front of people. But to me, I don't quite, I know they're connected, but I don't quite know how to connect those ones. Like, why was that the result of the situation?
Mm.
I'm not asking, I guess, unless you have something to say about that.
I mean, what comes to mind with other people that I've worked with that experience sexual abuse, and it's so weird that we're kind of bringing this up because last night, no joke, which is kind of like a sidetrack to nervous touch, but kind of goes back into like why I also struggle with eating in front of people, and I think just being seen in general by people. But last night I had some like memories come back that I had blocked out for like 20 years that happened in college regarding being roofied. And like, no joke, last night, like just flood back. Like it was so realistic, like it was happening. I definitely had like emotional flashbacks, like 3 to 4 o'clock this morning. So I definitely, but I always struggled with eating before that happened. But I know there is a lot of correlation with trauma, eating, being seen. Um, yeah, it's a lot of heavy stuff.
Are you all right? Like, how do you take care of yourself when you wake up from something like that? Not, I guess it wasn't a dream,
Um,
but
yeah, I mean, as someone that has like complex PTSD and has struggled with trauma most of my life, but like me and my husband also used to sleep in the same bedroom, and I would have these like horrible nightmares, terrors, night terrors, all that kind of stuff. And it got to the point to where it was like almost a safety issue because I would also act out my dreams. So
mm,
about 2 years ago, we decided to sleep in separate bedrooms, and it has been like a total game changer for me. So we've been married like 20 years, but we have our own bedrooms.
have you ever ran your dream rave chart?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna make a little note of that. I'm like, that's a hole to fall into, but I would be very curious to know what's active in your dream rave because they present as more like thematics, like aggression and desire, or like they're
Yeah.
more like qualities. Um, and then we lose a lot of our centers when we go into the dream version. So, like, I remember one of the things that's always been really challenging for me about dreams is that you have different limitations. Like, um, I get trapped in buildings a lot. Like, I'm stuck in a location and I can't leave the location. And I talked to someone about that who knew more about the human design thing, and they said, well, like right now, I have a spleen and an ego. I can go, this isn't safe. I have the will to leave.
Right.
Whereas in my dream, I don't have either one of those. I can't
Mm,
just do, I don't have the will in my dream. I don't have and like, it's hard for me in my, like, when I come back to waking to kind of like identify with who I was in that dream because she feels so powerless in so many ways.
yeah.
Ugh.
I didn't know that. So in your dream state, I guess your defined centers, that energy isn't there.
We switched to the mammalian design, so there's only a potential of five centers, and I think 19 gates rather than the 64 that we usually have. So you can't turn on as many things. You'll have different activations. So the stuff in mine, like I've a couple activations and none of them connect. So it's like a, re a reflector, but a mammal reflector. But I want to go
Yeah.
back for a second because when you were talking about how you were eating with nervous determination, you said podcast, TV, multiple parrots, and other animals. And the first thing that I heard, I was like, you can do multiple audio streams?
Yeah.
That scrambles my brain. Like if two people talk to me at the same time, I don't hear a damn thing either one of them said.
Yeah.
Blows my mind that you can do that. But my partner, who's also nervous, he's always got multiple streams on, and I'm like, I can't talk to you like this. I can't hear you, man. Like, not that I can't hear you. It's like I can't process what you're saying to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I can kind of, excuse me, like shift back and forth in a way. Plus, I would say if something's like really like interesting, then I can like tune the other thing out and like really focus on the one. But it's like I can kind of like switch back and forth, which is
Man,
probably
that's
why I have
so
to
cool.
listen to stuff several times to really get it. Maybe I have too much going on.
Okay, that's well, okay, so you're also feelings cognition, which is an acoustic cognition. My partner's also feelings cognition. I'm like, ooh, these are fun questions for me to be able to ask. Do you consider spicy food stimulating?
If it's not too spicy.
Do you like spicy food?
Yes, like a hint of it. Like for peppers, I definitely prefer like the sweet peppers versus like jalapeno would be too stimulating for me.
Interesting. Because I'm trying to suss out like, is there internal stimulation? Is there external stimulation? Like what? And okay, like, do you prefer food that's crunchy
Ooh, yeah, I do. Is it
or
maybe
soft
like the
foods boring?
acoustics?
Yeah, like,
Mm, like have to hear that like crunch or bite into something. Yeah. Though I can't hear other people crunching and biting into things. Like that drives me freaking nuts. But unless it's an animal, I don't mind my animals doing it. That's like calming. But if a person like smacks too loud, I'm like, oh, no.
okay, so the audience may have picked up that you've got a couple of animals around your place. How many animals are we talking here?
I think I'm at 48 right now.
Holy shit. I knew you were pushing 50. I was like, she's gonna say close to 50, I'm pretty sure. Okay, what kinds of animals?
I have donkeys, horses, mini horses. I have chickens, ducks, peacocks. I have three house bunnies. I have a chinchilla, two parrots, cats, dogs. Did I say peacocks?
Yeah.
Peacocks too. And goats. That's what I was
Do
going to
you
say.
ever forget
Goats.
to feed any of them?
No, they will let you know.
What do you mean?
It's loud. Like, think I were out in the middle of nowhere because you will hear goats screaming, donkeys braying, horses neighing, and they're all waiting like at a line across all the gate. They know.
That's awesome.
They will never let you forget.
Do you ever forget to feed yourself?
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, I can go, like, I normally don't eat until probably like 3 or 4. I'll snack on something and then I won't eat dinner till probably 7-ish.
Huh. You have a passive brain, active body though, defined sacral. You're definitely using a motor. Okay, so what affects your appetite or what affects your hunger?
I think it's just not, mm, I don't know. I think maybe because like in the mornings, it's like take care of the animals, do all the barn chores, do stuff around the house, and it's just like I want to get all that shit done so then I can do my thing for the day.
Yeah.
So I just don't think about, oh, I need to like stop and maybe eat breakfast. I've never been a breakfast person. So yeah, it's usually like after lunch when I think, I'm a little hungry, I need to snack on something. Or if I smoke weed, of course, that definitely will
Okay.
remind me to eat.
You're also a pure individual. Like the channel charisma stands out very, very clearly, which makes me laugh because it's the like, I'm busy life, right? I'm busy with the animals. I'm busy doing this. I'm busy doing this. I'm busy doing this. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you're actually straight, you're just pure individual. What's that like?
I think I'm like very in my own world, which of course being a hermit also goes into it, but I'm very like fine by myself. I don't need people around me. I just kind of do my own thing. I don't miss being around people at all. It's just like a complete shift from like how I used to live my life, which was completely different. But now it's like I'm very just being in the right environment for sure changed a lot of that for me.
I'm
Did I
curious about
answer your
like
question?
the projection on being a second line because I wasn't sure if it was a joke or not that you made in class about, and I don't know what it's called, but I think you said something like, my therapist says I have agoraphobia or something like that because I never leave the house, but I really actually
Yeah,
just I don't get the impression from you that you're like afraid of people. I get the impression that you're over people.
amen. That is
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, when's the last time you left your house? I'm like, I literally leave my house maybe 5 or 6 times a year. Like,
And like, is that grocery shopping?
my husband does all that for me. Poor bastard.
How far does he have to drive far or anything?
Well, in our town, we have like a small grocery store, but it's almost like a convenience store. So he has to go like 45 minutes to go to like a decent grocery store. So it's definitely out of the way.
And why don't you want to go with him?
People, it's just too much. Like if I have to go, I'll do it. But I'm definitely like, if you met me in the grocery store line, you would probably be like, well, what's her problem? What's with the resting bitch face? Like she's got an issue. Like she hates somebody. Like what's up with her?
I
But
think I
like
can tell you
here,
haven't been to the grocery store in a long time because I'm like, that's what everybody looks like in the checkout line. I don't know if you
oh,
know that, but like we're
well,
all pretty miserable to be there. So you've got to blend in.
maybe it has just been way too long. But I would always get people like, oh, smile, like it's not that bad. Like, what's wrong? Like always, I'm like, do you not see this like don't talk to me type look on my face? Like I don't look approachable, but it'd always be, of course, older white men, oh, what's wrong? Jesus loves you.
Oh
You need
God.
to be smiling. It's not that bad.
Fuck. That's fair. Even okay, like maybe this is a weird thing to say, but like even when your husband's around, like if you go out with your husband, you got men saying stupid stuff to you.
Ooh. Sometimes, yeah. But my husband's also, well, he's an MG as well, but he's a 6'2". So he's very more approachable to people, and maybe he's the attractor and why they come up and say things to me more.
Interesting. Okay, well, if you were to actually go out somewhere that you enjoyed, like, are there any locations you miss?
Mm, maybe Chick-fil-A.
Didn't expect that. We don't have Chick-fil-A in Canada. I'm pretty sure we don't have Chick-fil-A in Canada.
Oh, yeah,
I'm learning a lot about food.
maybe. I know. Target. I wouldn't mind maybe going to a Target if it wasn't like really busy. But really, no. Like if it's something I can order online, I'm good.
If stores did like the hours that they're typically closed, you could pay like a $10 fee for like a 20-minute time span, and it was
Mm,
only you and a cashier in there. Would you do it?
heaven.
You're like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm into that.
yeah,
Okay, so a lot of it is like adapting things to what you actually need. They're not general blanket statements like, I don't like to go to town. It's more like, I don't, okay, this is a
yeah.
little bit more fun. I'm like, you're shores. So you live in a place that's like a very natural shores environment. You are way out in the sticks in some way. And your
Mm,
boundary is like you and crown land or you and government land, or I don't know what you guys call it.
yeah, it's national forest in the United States, so just nobody can build on it, things like that. So I'm surrounded with like 6,000 acres of national
That's
forest
incredible.
and no neighbors.
So what's the feeling of like how does your body feel regulated or calm or good, or how does it feel in that setting that's so good in order for you to know that the other stuff is really bad feeling?
Mm, as no joke, as soon as I leave here and leave my farm, the anxiety ramps up. I get like, well, sometimes just such anxiety that I will pass out too. If it's like too much stimulation or I feel just trapped, if I can't like see the exit to something, just being around people for sure. But when I'm home, like I rarely have panic attacks. Um, I mean, I'll still have them, but not as severe when I'm around a lot of people. Um, yeah, it's like totally different.
So how
Definitely a
long have you
vibe.
been at this farm?
About 9 years now.
Since Saturn returned?
Mm-hmm.
You moved to the right environment.
Yeah, and got sober, which helped me to get sober
Sober from what?
from opiates.
Pain medication?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
why you started them?
Well, so I also served in the military, and I was in Iraq for 14 months. And when I came home from Iraq, I started having excruciating migraines and just widespread pain, no diagnosis, and a doctor like put me on opiates like right away. So within 6 months, I was on fentanyl, oxycodone, Valium. So that was like a 9 year span that I was like heavily addicted to narcotics. And when I reached a point to where I was like, something's got to freaking change, I quit my job. I was working for the government. I dropped out of school because I, at the time, thought I was going to be a psychologist. And then I dropped out, sold our house, and then we bought the farm. And when we moved here, it was like, I can do this on my own. I don't need to go to like NA. I don't need to like go on methadone or Suboxone or do any of this. If I can do it my way, I know I can do it. But of course, every doctor was like, no, you can't do it that way. And I was like, all right, well, spite can be a powerful motivator too. It was
Okay.
like, I'm going to show you.
When people are trying to figure out, like, well, not people, when the doctor's trying to figure out what medication to give you, it's usually kind of a crapshoot in the beginning. How did you end up on three different ones? So either you didn't like something about one or you liked something about each of them, but how did you end up with multiples?
Well, it was also a pain management doctor that ended up losing her license. So she was definitely
Oh,
very motivated for her kickbacks. And so, like, of course, when you're taking narcotics, you reach like a baseline to where they're just not as effective. They stop, and you're just like at this plateau, and you're still in pain. Of course, now I know, being sober, that I was just constantly withdrawing, but I didn't know that, nobody like explained addiction. Because I was like holding a full-time job, going to school, like nobody knew I was on these medications except people close to me. So I'd reach a plateau and she'd be like, okay, well, we'll bump it up. Okay, this isn't working. Well, let's add this to it, or the symptoms I would be having from medication, she would just subscribe another one to offset that symptom, but then it just keeps piling on.
okay. So one of the things that really intrigues me is that you knew or had a feeling, which is also your cognition, when you went either to the farm or could start to feel the direction of the farm, or either way, it was like the relief starts to build in some kind of way. And you're like, I can do this. I can do this on my own here without certain supports. You have an undefined ego, hanging gate 40, conscious. So I look at this and I go, no willpower, no consistent willpower. You amplify other people's willpower. You also have an undefined spleen. So a hard time of letting go with what's not healthy for you. I would think that your design would definitely struggle more with quitting something like this. But
Mm,
you felt like the way that you said it was a very empowered, like if I'm out here, I can do this. Now I'm also hearing like pure individual again, a very self-empowered design. So what do you feel like is your relationship to willpower in this? Like, do you think other people with undefined egos can hear this and be like, I can totally quit things easily too if I have da 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 da?
yeah, I think if you like have that mindset of like, this is something I need to do, which is so weird. I definitely don't have like obviously feel motivated all the time. I know with the center, I also struggle with like trying to prove worthiness to people as well. But I think just with it was like I just knew maybe it was my sacral. Like it was just in my gut. I knew something had to change. And if I could do it the way I wanted to, that I would be able to do it. And I think I was also, maybe this is the undefined part, proving my worth to myself that I could do it.
Like your gate 40, the work. It's like it's what we know right now is the work. This is the way. The way is the work. And so if I'm gonna put your ego stuff on anything, I'm gonna stick it on 40. But I see that one as like this work is worth it. Because for me, ego stuff always comes down to value. Like that's really what the predominantly it's about. There's a value and worth component to it. And you might not have the willpower, but you may have the self-worth to do the work. And it's not so much about like, I have to prove. It's almost more like a backup motivator for the sacral center. Like the feeling is there, not necessarily the motor.
Mm, that aligns.
I'm like, where is your 40? It's conscious. Venus, your values.
Hmm.
Oh, he found value in the work. Literally, the work was worth it.
Yeah. I
Cool.
mean, it definitely was because I never would have been where I am now, in my healing journey. I probably would have ended up addicted to heroin or, just would have kept going down that path or overdosing. So it was like, but it was definitely the change in environment that also helped motivate me. It was like being in the right environment. I knew, but I also started rescuing animals at the same time. So they also gave me a purpose every day. So like they have to have somebody to continue to caretake for them. So I have to be sober so I can take care of them long term.
Gate 50, defined twice in an undefined spleen. Gate of responsibility. And half the channel of preservation. I can totally see that. I need to be here for them. I need to be here for them. And like that's part of what your response is for. I need to be here for them. Caring for them in a way is like teaching you to care for you.
Mm.
Is it like what are the finances of having that many animals? Like are you rescuing them? Are you like you have to pay to feed them all? Is there any help for that or
Yeah, I'm not like a 5103C or a charity or anything like that. My husband and I are both retired from the military medically. So we live off of, excuse me, our disability. So we live a very simple life, which is probably a good reason why I don't go anywhere. But we just live very simply. Like we're not very like about fancy houses, fancy cars. Like we are just content being able to take care of our animals, take care of ourselves, pay our bills, and that's okay. Like we don't have to have a ton of money in the bank. And I know like a lot of this is so hard to resonate with, especially people on Instagram who are completely like the opposite. It's like you need to make this much money to be successful as a coach. You need to do this, the 10, 20, 30K months. Of course, that would be freaking amazing. I'm not going to be like, oh no. But I also know like I'm also content with never having that. And that's okay. It's not nothing that's bad or good.
I can definitely relate to that. I think as a projector with the signature being success, that's kind of a hard one to understand in the beginning, especially if you spend a lot of time on Instagram and there are a lot of pop HD people trying to tell you that success has a literal monetary value to it. And so then there's this quality of like, if I'm not making so much money, am I a failure? Am I in the wrong system? Was I not really invited? Like, spiral.
Yeah.
Um, and I've had I've had the 10K months. I've had the 20K months, but I don't and like and I'm always kind of like I'm surprised I'm not more motivated to make that happen more frequently, but it's it's odd that it doesn't really happen when it happens as a result of me trying to make it
Mm,
happen. So in the times where I'm like, okay, so I should try to make that happen again, it's like, but trying is not how it just happened. So
right.
I'm about to like over effort out of, I don't know. I don't know. Like it just feels like I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
Um, there are definitely things I prioritize more in my life. For example, I'm the main provider in the household. And I'm okay with that. Sometimes my brain wants to be like, are you sure you're okay with that? But I think, like, I'll be honest, my question to myself is like, well, what else do I want to spend my money on? Like, I make my money. What do I want to spend it on? And I really, really love having a partner at home who tends to most of the home things. I like having the animals that I have here. Like, I like having, like, I tend to spend, if anything, on like nice equipment, like the snowshoes
Hmm.
or the backpack, so we can all go out into the woods or whatever. But what I really wanted to afford eventually was a more open lifestyle, which is what you've accomplished by what you're doing. So, like, I'm quite repelled by a lot of content. I'm quite repelled by a lot of just media in general because it's not only so performative, but it's really exhausting to keep up with. Like, really, really, I don't have enough fucks to give. I don't have the energy to
Yeah.
have enough fucks to give to keep up with that. I definitely relate to that. Although you've gone a step I'm not willing to do yet, which is you've moved further out in order for more access to things. Like, I don't imagine buying a farm was cheap. Like, you made an investment differently.
Yeah.
How long
Well,
have you been there? 9 years?
surprisingly, hmm well, we actually bought, so we got 42 acres. And it has like a little house that's like 1,200 square feet on it. It had a really big old barn that needed a lot of work done to it. But we actually got it for 250,000. So in the United States, especially 9 years ago, that was like a killer deal.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was just, which was really funny because I thought I wanted to move to Florida when we bought the farm. Yeah.
Why
I was like,
Florida?
I need the beach. I need the water. I thought like, oh, that would be the environment for me to get sober because I do like, being at the beach, but not a crowded beach, obviously. Like when it's just me, and maybe like people like a quarter mile away, I'm good. So there was like this one island that we used to vacation at in Florida, Anna Maria Island, and I was like, I want to move there. I think that would be it. But then my brother-in-law was like, I think you need to see this farm that I pass by every day and just come look at it. And we were like, okay, whatever. And as soon as we saw it, we were like, this is it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So your brother lives in the same town as you?
My brother-in-law. Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to your husband's family town?
Hmm.
Did you meet your husband in the military?
Yes.
And you were quite young.
Yeah, I was 20 and he's 32.
Ooh. You know what? As much as that's a gap for sure.
Hmm.
I think I think 20's fine. Under 20, I start to be like, when there's a teen on the end of that sentence and we've got more than a 10-year age gap, I start to get a little squeamish. But when you're 20 and
Yeah.
you're in the military, I think we know you're a grown-ass woman.
Yeah. We met in Iraq. So we got married. We actually got engaged after only 3 weeks of knowing each other. Served over there,
Whoa,
came
whoa,
home
whoa,
during,
what? I'm
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
Backtrack. How, how did you know that quickly you guys wanted to get married?
It's hard to answer. I don't know.
Most people wouldn't even talk about that within 3 weeks. How did you even
I
bring up the
know.
subject?
He proposed to me after only 3 weeks of knowing. We had just met going to
He
Iraq, so
loves you.
we're like preparing. You know what? I think he was the first person that, because I grew up in a narcissistic family, so a lot of my relationships through high school and in college were always narcissists. And so he was like the first person who really just treated me like a normal person.
Hmm.
you know, there was no like expectation. He just like accepted me as is, didn't try to control me. Like I could just really like, well, who I thought I was at 20, you know. But I just felt safe with him. And it was like we just freaking knew. So we got married 6 months later during our 2 week leave and then went back to Iraq to finish our tour. So by that time, we'd already been married like 8 or 9 months before we even lived together.
So I don't know much about the military, but you traveled together, you stayed together when you were overseas? Do you get to have
Yeah.
like a same bedroom?
No, we couldn't live together because being especially husband and wife, we would have incoming mortar attacks on the base we were on. So like artillery would be dropped. So you didn't want like a husband and wife being killed at the same time. And we did like convoy
Jesus.
security over there. So we were gun trucks for military contractors, and we couldn't be in the same vehicle either.
Is that just like out of consideration for your family or your children or something?
Probably more for the media.
Oh,
Just
that's
because it
fair.
would be a story that would like be negative.
It would touch too
Um,
many people.
yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
So yeah. So that was an interesting first year of marriage.
How did you respond to being in the military in the first place?
Like why I wanted to, or just
Yeah.
how to escape my toxic ass family. It was
And you thought
like,
that the military was going to be like less toxic?
well, I knew I could handle men screaming at me and not reacting. So it was like I was conditioned. I was like, yeah, I can handle that.
Damn.
So
And
I
at what point
thought.
were you like, I can't handle that anymore? Because it seems to be that the one thing you really don't like is when older men talk to you.
It was hard, which is funny with my husband being older that it wasn't like that with him. But of course, he's never like yelled at me or
He's not
anything.
that much
But
older.
you know, it's a,
He's not old enough to be a generation above you.
well, if you really think about it, I was in kindergarten when he joined the military. So if you think about it that way, that is bad.
Okay, I'm going to tell you kind of a funny story. I hope you laugh at this. My mom is 12 and a half years older than her husband. Um, they very quickly got engaged. They were engaged within 3 months of getting together, and they got married like 2 weeks later. Like they were married very quickly. Um, he turned 24 right before the wedding. So a 23-year-old proposed to my 35-year-old mom one summer when I was 15 and away at my dad's place. So I came home from summer vacation, and there's a 20-year-old dude in my house married to my mom. And this, I mean, it's almost 20 years now. So it worked, right? But
Yeah.
it's not usual that the woman is the older one. And she was talking about making like cheesy holiday photos. And I said that she needed to find a photo of like a 13-year-old girl and her baby brother and just be like wishing my future husband a Merry Christmas and put their faces over the kids' faces.
Dead.
She laughed so hard. I was so glad she wasn't mad at me.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, people, when I first got with my husband and my mom is only 6 years older than my husband. So when in the beginning, when we would go out to eat, I was like the kid. They would like ask me, do you want an alcoholic beverage? And then, oh, what does she want like for the kids meal type thing? Like
I'm
it
so
was
glad you
very
can relate to
awkward.
this because my stepdad's only 8 years older than me. And when we all go out together, people in the beginning, they didn't know if he was my partner or her partner. And then when people would think he's my
Yeah.
partner, I'm like, dad vibes, like you.
Yeah, I hated it in the beginning. I was like, my husband would be like, actually, it got to the point where we're just like, yeah, yeah, whatever. Because it was like pointless to like explain it to people because then they would look at you weird. They're like, oh, like that's kind of cringy. Like, why
Okay,
is
so
this old
different
dude with
question
her?
for you. Um, when you came out to the farm and you were doing the animal thing, at what point were you like, I want to work again? So like, when did human design stuff become interesting for work for you?
Um, I actually thought about doing equine psychotherapy like at the farm because I was like, well, maybe I can do like trauma recovery coaching and get licensed and like work with a therapist and do like a program here on the farm where people could spend time with horses. Since it was such a vital part of my healing journey and made such a difference, I was like, I kind of want to do this for other people, but that would also mean turning my farm into a business, people coming here all the time. And I just realized that was not what I wanted. So it was like, okay, well, what can I do where I'm still here at home, still get to enjoy my animals without my animals feeling like they have to like have a job or perform. So that's when I looked into doing like trauma recovery coaching online. And I just got so burned out with that so quick. And I just started looking for like other modalities of like, how can I make trauma recovery coaching more empowering and not so like trauma dumping and just constantly revisiting the old trauma just over and over and over and not making progress. And when I like, it was like total by accident, came across human design, it like just made sense. It just landed. It didn't make me feel like my design, like something was wrong with me or, you know.
So you see using design as a trauma recovery tool because it's showing people what how they're supposed to be treated and why they're upset about ways they were treated,
Yeah,
kind of.
I think it kind of like meets you where you're at. And it's just like a modality that doesn't make you feel like something's wrong with you or something's broken. Definitely gives like a language to kind of understanding yourself. And I know like trauma survivors, especially, we're always asking the question like, who the fuck are we? Like, who are we really? Because we've just been so conditioned. So yeah, it just like I don't know, it made sense like learning I was a hermit. It was like, see, there's nothing wrong. Maybe I don't have agoraphobia. Maybe I do love my solitude and that's nothing bad or wrong. I don't know, it's just like really empowering.
Okay, I'm curious about something here because you did the who are we? Like because of the trauma, we don't know who we are. I'm wondering how much more relevant is that for sacral people? If the sacral being is here to know who they are. Part of my question is like, is certain trauma more of impactful on I'm not meaning to use manifestor language there, but like does certain trauma have a heavier impact on sacral beings because of the distortion of who they are? And also kind of like as a binary to that, projectors, we're not here to know who we are. We're here to know who you are. So if you're doing this with a projector, would it be more helpful for the projector to study their abuser? Like to have some level of
Mm,
understanding of the mechanics that had an effect on them? And does that create like recognition for certain mechanics as like those mechanics have been part of the people who have hurt me? And so I have like something come up for that. And then, with a manifester, they're here to know their impact. So if they need to go through some type of trauma recovery, like I'm not quite sure how to work with that one.
I
I
think,
almost, oh,
oh,
go,
go
sorry.
ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
It kind of surprises me a little bit that, and this isn't you, this is so many people, when they fix something in themselves, it becomes their career. But I don't know if that's what you actually like. Like just because you're good at it, just because you're educated in it, just because you understand it, just because it had value for you, do you want to talk to people about trauma all the time? Is it,
Mm.
do you want to have those heavy conversations all the time?
I know, like, I recently did a reading for a projector, and we had kind of dived into letting them embrace that they are kind of like a chameleon, that they can like shift and move depending on like the people that they're around. And that doesn't mean like they're, I don't know if it's really like people pleasing, but just they may seem like more pacified when they're with other groups. They can just really flow with that. Whereas like me being a manifesting generator, like I'm the same, like this is me. It's very hard for me to like fit in with different groups of people. And when we kind of like talked about like the chameleon effect, I just know like the projector was kind of like, oh, well, like that's a good thing. Like it doesn't mean it's something wrong with me that maybe I don't have the fine G center and have this, you know, I don't know, like fixed identity.
Okay, because now I'm like, now I've got some interesting things to talk about. You put quite a few interesting words there. I had to write some of them down because, I mean, as a projector, my first thing is like, can I relate to what she's saying? Does this feel true for me in any way? And as like a general concept, like projectors are chameleons. I have a hard, like I need a little bit something more from that. But I really liked when you said it might come across as people pleasing, but that's not how you're seeing it. You're seeing it as ultimately like just amplifying other people depending on the group that you're with. What you amplify makes you present differently, as in where you're more open. What I've really heard there is the more open you are, the less consistent you are. And someone's hearing this and going, it's okay that I'm inconsistent. It's okay that I'm not fixed. And as a general guideline, like you definitely want people to not think that being undefined is a problem, right? You want them to be like, it's okay that for me,
Yeah.
I need to be okay that I have 7 undefined centers. However, my partner is like, he's on me about this, but I have to say I love it. Like I signed up for this intentionally. I know him, I know his design, I know how he communicates with me. He is really good at calling out anything that would be considered inauthentic. And so, yeah, I
Mm.
have 7 open centers, but what he's still waiting to see is what's the consistency in that. Because if I change for them and I change for them and I change for them, I'm not me in any of those situations. So there's an adaptability component, but there's a lose yourself component. Are we still being our definition? There was a
Well,
G
how do you
center
feel with
part.
that?
Well,
Do you feel like you're being inauthentic when
totally,
you do
totally.
you?
And it's really hard to realize and really uncomfortable to realize because it doesn't feel that way in the moment. It's my Tamagotchi. It doesn't feel that way in the moment, but he points out observations like, you're so tired after you do that. Like, he watches more than anything my voice change. And one of the things that I struggle with and he struggles with in my communication is that when I want to retell a story that I've heard, my voice changes to be exactly the way that I heard the story. And a lot of the times I'm sharing a story that has some level of like drama or excitement or stimulation to
Mm-hmm.
it. So the voice is louder than my usual voice. It's a lot more animated. Um, and he's like, what the hell? Like you usually, I can barely hear you. You talk so quiet. And then out of nowhere, you're yelling at me. He's like, you don't know how to read your tone. You don't really know how to read the room. Like, um, and you always sound different. And I started to realize, holy shit, the voices, they come out exactly the way they go in.
Mm.
So there's like legit no authenticity from me in this. And I was like, well, on one hand, you got to recognize you're getting a lot of truth out of me. Like I'm not paraphrasing, I'm not you get the quote out of me, which is kind of cool. I like that. It feels honest, but also it makes me feel a little bit like I have some challenges to my social skills. I have a hard time reading the room sometimes. I have a hard time meeting the right energy. And I am almost always amplifying with this feeling like I need to be more fun. I need to be more upbeat. I'm boring. And so like I always feel like I need to bring more energy to the room because well my mom's a generator and she's very energetic and she's on my ass if she doesn't think that I'm energetic or giving her
Mm,
something. And so I feel like I'm under a lot of performative pressure even when I spend time with like someone who should know me very well like my mom. I find it very hard to actually relax around people. And that's what he points out. He's like, you're a control freak. You're not relaxed. And it's not like he's saying terrible things about me. What he's saying is things he see that can change. And when they change, I'll feel better. He's also the channel of judgment. No, like, go figure, right?
do you feel like it's something that you need to change or
Yeah.
adapt to?
Yeah,
You
I'm
do?
tired. Straight up, I'm tired. So he's right. And it's so interesting to look at and be like, whoa, I do turn it up around certain people. I am performing. Why am I not comfortable to relax? Like if you even if you look at my posture, I have a neck like I'm very forward facing. These muscles, the sternocleidomasto freaking whatever, I don't even know. These
Mm.
thingies down here, they're very like they're very tight all the time. They pull my neck down and
Mm.
forward. And I recognize like I'm just doing this all the time. Like I'm bracing for life. I smoke a
A lot of
ton of
tension.
weed just to try and like relax. But a lot of the actual relaxation I need is talking like 90% less than I do, being like 90% less, like recognizing that I actually am just a fucking projector.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have the manifestor call it out because if he wasn't here, I'll be very unaware of certain things that I'm doing that are they're not self. I need
You
someone
need,
to see me. Projectors can't see themselves.
right. You need someone to call out the things, but also do it in a way where it's not like judging you or shaming you, like it's something wrong.
Yeah, that part was hard because I had to, again, understand someone else's mechanics. I'm like, he's a channel of emoting, so he's provocative. He will always be provocative. He's a first line personality, so he's always going to have questions. He's desire motivation, so he's always going to try to lead me somewhere. He's a defined throat, so he's very aware of what a consistent voice sounds like and how inconsistent I am. So sometimes I don't like the delivery, but I chose him. So I have to recognize, like, I chose the mechanics that are going to give that to me too. And sometimes it's uncomfortable or abrasive, but at the end of the day, this is part of like me letting him be him. And if I'm demanding that I get to be me, I got to give that same grace back. So he's got to deal with my weird
Yeah.
voice, and I got to deal with him being provocative.
Like that though, because like I know for me personally, like the one of my closest friends who is a splenic projector as well. And I know like in the beginning, she really struggled with people constantly wanting to take advantage of how she sees things, how, she sees people and always wanting something from her constantly for nothing, like never giving anything back, right? Just constantly wanting to take from her and how much that was draining her. So it's like even just learning that, it has helped me to know why it's so important for a projector to be recognized, to also bring something to the table, not be constantly like not needing them and also bringing something, value, I guess. So we've like actually gotten really close with that. And like me knowing, like when she calls me out on things, that it's not something like she's being mean or malicious about. That's just how she sees it, right? And it's not for me to like take offense to it or take it like, oh my God, like why would she say that about me? I actually prefer it. I would rather somebody call me out how they see it than this whole like fakeness or on the surface bullshit. Like I would rather somebody do those things. But I also know a lot of people just aren't used to that. They don't get it.
Yeah, I definitely I can tell I'm unrecognized by someone when they give me flack for being too direct in my conversation. Um, this is okay. I will give this little caveat for what the manifestor does. He tells me I'm the sexiest when I'm angry because when I'm angry, I use my real voice. He says, when you're angry, you don't fuck around. You say what needs to be said. You're not in an anxious place. You're not in a whatever. You're in a like you're annoyed and you're very direct. And sometimes I'm very direct, especially to like I don't even know what to call them. I wanted to say young people, and then I was like, no, it's old people. No, I'm like, it's the sensitive people. It's the sensitive people. It's the
Mhm.
undefined egos. There are certain undefined egos that they'll never be able to see me as like anything other than just a bitch. Um,
Mm.
but if you know that I have my ego and you're used to talking to me and you're used to working with me and you want someone who's gonna just be a straight shooter with you call me so I can do that. Like there are people who
Yeah.
want that from me. And I feel very recognized in those conversations because I don't have to mince my words. I don't have to think about what's going on. Like my actual voice gets to come out. And it's so relieving.
Yeah. So you have a sexy, angry, authentic
Smoker
voice.
voice. Got the sexy, angry smoker voice somewhere in there. Oh my goodness. There was something else that I wanted to say, but that just made me laugh. Honestly, okay, one of the things I gotta say is I like talking to receptive people a lot because the conversation flows so different. Like when I'm done a podcast recording with a receptive person, I can go have another podcast recording. Like I have another one after this, and that's no problem for me. But if I had to only interview left people today, it would feel like work. What's the
Mm,
plan? What are we talking about? When are we going to talk about this? Like, should we just, it's a lot, right? Whereas when you're sitting down with someone who's right, it tends to just be more like it's got that shoot the shit feel.
ooh, I like that.
Okay, so you said you've only been doing human design for 9 months. I don't get that feeling
Hmm.
from you. Like you just
Well,
found it 9 months ago
hmm,
and
yeah.
you were just like, I'm in.
But yeah, like I took four like courses at the same time. Not like some big, huge, like the expensive ones, because I didn't have money for that shit. But it was like people I'd find on Instagram, which I think we had this conversation when we first met because I was like, I think you had posted something about Pop HD and Source HD, and it really grabbed my attention because I was noticing like all the four programs that I was in at the same time, just how different it was. And I'm definitely someone who, when I learn something, like I want the original of it and then determine from there if there's something I want to like adapt or whatever. But I hate learning something and then finding out it's, I don't want to say the right way, but it just makes me feel like a fraud for some reason.
Is that why you just took my course? Was because you knew it was source based?
Just because, well, that was one of the big things, but also watching your YouTube and just how you explained it in a way that just like built kind of like layers to it. Whereas like a lot of the other instructors that I would get, it was either like reading straight from the book or they would put so much like changing the names of energy centers and like doing all this. And it was just
What the
like,
fuck?
didn't like it at
It
all.
pisses
Didn't
me
land.
off so much when people are charging for what's in a book. Like that's why I send resources. Like I don't know how much to say. I make sure my students get the right information, let's say that. And
Yeah.
oh god, like whenever people are changing the names of things, you just end up having to say the real name behind it anyway, because nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. It was so annoying. I just didn't like it. And for some reason, like just the way how you explain it, you build the layers on it. And I like, not to blow smoke up your ass, but I can
Blow
learn like
away.
just in the advanced courses that we've been doing. I have probably watched the first three. So we've done intro, termination, and environment, right?
Yeah.
I have probably watched each one of those 3 times at least since.
Damn.
And I get something new it's like I'm almost listening to it for the first time.
Do you think that the question time is as good as the other time? Like, do you learn just as much in the question time, if not more so?
Yes. Because you really see, well, of course, projector, right? But you really see how people are already living, like for the environmental one, you are already like telling people and asking questions that make them realize they're kind of already living their design without
Which
knowing
makes them
it. And
feel
I
way
think,
better about it.
yes, I think that's like the coolest part of it. And plus, it's different for everybody. Like, no matter what question, you're still answering a question to probably everybody in the class, like one little thing. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's just
Makes a ton of
totally
sense.
different from a lot of other people teach human design.
So, the person who read from the book, did you ever consider asking for a refund?
No.
Why not? I'm curious about these. I think about this as a defined ego
I
all
think
the
I was
time.
just like fed up. I was just like, damn it. No, I totally didn't.
Did you do
But of
anything
course,
else to like take your attention away from the person or anything? Like, did you have like a rejection of,
I mean, I definitely like unfollowed them afterwards and was like, I'm not gonna like look at their stuff anymore because I didn't like
okay,
it.
because with receptive people, one of the things that they all agree with, but don't necessarily realize right off the bat is you have a very different like whether you're willing to take something in or not, like it's not just your sacral response. With my leftness, I forget things, and I don't even know how to say that because like I know I have a visual memory and I'm a memory channel. I have memory gates. Like there's other memory stuff there, but in general, I'm like a flashcard learner. That's what strategic is. Whereas as the receptive learner, you're storing things away in a box, but you know that you're going to have to see it again kind of at some point. And so there's this aversion from receptive people to taking in things that they don't want to see again. They don't want to hear again. They don't want to like my mom, there are certain I couldn't believe that she said this, but then I could believe that she said this. But she was like, "Oh, there was a yucky looking thing on the TV. I had to leave the room." And it didn't
Mm,
even sound that yucky to what she said. And she was like, I just can't watch anything negative, gross, gory, scary. I don't want anything negative. I only want like positive stuff. And I'm kind of looking at her like, there might be something to look into there, Tracy, if you can't handle anything negative. But from her perspective, she's like, why do I need that? Why do I want to deal with that again? Why do I want to see that again? And it's like she doesn't want to put junk in her storage unit.
mm. Yeah, I can totally see that.
So yeah, I was
Which
curious. I was
also
like,
learning that I was receptive when you said, how we can really store things. I was like, my whole life, it was always like I had to study things over and over. Like, you better be good at this. You better go all out, study as much as you can. And I would always flunk every
because
freaking
you're
test.
studying. I'm like, that's the
Right.
fucking irony to this is that,
Yeah.
oh, man, I swear
So
so much
now with
more in
like
book.
human design, yeah, I'm just like, I just re-listen to lectures or whatever, and I don't have to sit there and study. And I have to like implement it and do things. And that's how I like start learning more, I guess.
Yeah, man, just taking it in. You got your podcast over here, you got your YouTube over here. I'm pretty sure the parrots are
Yeah.
speaking human design soon. Do they? Oh my God, do your parrots know any human design words?
No, not yet. They like mutter and like mimic noises, but so it's more like the mouse on my computer clicking on my
They're still
computer.
waking up their sacrals.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Well, I'm gonna cut it at this area. I think we got a good one here.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to direct people to if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Her Healing Way. And you can check out my link in bio there. I always have all my links. My website is www.herhealingway.com. So if you're interested in human design and are a trauma survivor or experienced trauma, check me out.
Yeah, it's like, who do you actually want to talk to? Like, what's not, I don't, dream clients are just lame words, but like, if someone hires you, what, or do you like have an intake form that you read and you're like, oh, we're gonna do good work together or anything like?
Yeah, I do have an intake form. Obviously, like running their chart ahead of time. Like if a reflector came to me or somebody that I don't have a lot of experience with, and I would definitely be like, you need to find someone who's more experienced since I am so new. Definitely most of my clientele are usually just discovering human design, which I think is good for me being so new, just really like doing foundational stuff. And then in my own time, just keep repeating, like keep learning more. So I would like to eventually probably do people who have been into human design a little bit more and want to know more and like actually live it, not
Yeah.
just know the information and then go back to whatever. But obviously, it's going to take time for me to even, because I'm not
Oh,
embodying
like it's
my
not going to
human
take that
design
much
yet.
time. Look what you did in nine
Yeah.
months. Like you
Mm.
you hold a conversation with me very easily about anything that I wanted to talk about in the body graph.
Mm. Thank you. Though I did take a lot of damn notes to revisit things.
I definitely think you're going to do more of the advanced conversations because people might not, they won't realize this until they realize this, but advanced conversations are so much easier to have because when people are new to human design, they actually don't even know how to conceptualize what human design is. Like it's such a foreign language and concept. And a lot of the times people approach it almost like you're giving a psychic reading, and there's this like
Mm.
need to prove. A lot of undefined egos do
Mm.
not like foundational readings because it's like you have to prove someone's design to them. Um, and then you also tend to like over
Mm.
deliver in that struggle. And so I can tell you'll definitely enjoy there'll be more relaxing kind of conversations, deeper, more, well, a little bit more emotional, probably. And I feel like you're someone who
Yeah.
would work with people not in long-term packages, but in little like bundles. Like people would be
Yeah.
buying like 4 packs from you very consistently.
Mm. This is why I love projectors so much.
This is what I see for you.
Love
Aw.
it.
Well, thanks for coming and talking to me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I definitely, I mean, I'll say real quick, I was definitely a little nervous that I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation because you are someone that is so advanced in human design. I was like, oh, would I be able to do it? I was like, well, I won't know if I don't try, so we'll
Well, for the
see.
most part, I want to know like about your experience, right? So you can't really tell me that too wrong.
Mhm. Yeah,
Well,
it was such a
thanks,
good
Jen.
conversation. Thank you so much.
See you in a couple weeks in class.
All right.